Advocates expect that they will need to speak up on someone's behalf, and they're prepared to do that. However, I've noticed that often just the presence of an advocate in the life of a vulnerable person with disability can have a real impact on what's happening for that person.
Absolutely, Bob. And sometimes that comes as a surprise to the advocate as well. It's wonderful when you're in trouble to have someone in your corner, but when that someone is also someone of high standing, that is, they're valued. That is, they have competencies that they bring, and they're standing to represent you. And also the knowledge that this person could go as far as they need to go to get a matter heard, and that that's not limited, that's not constrained in any way. It means that they don't necessarily have to say anything, but they could, and they will if they need to. That really bothers some authorities. As I said earlier too, that when abuse occurs because it's done in secret, that is, no one else knows. In a situation where an advocate turns up, now someone else knows, and therefore the person isn't there to try and represent their own interests by themselves, which is often very inadequate, a kind of voiceless person, may not be able to articulate things as they need to, or even be able to speak, and therefore things and all sorts of decisions can be made without regard for how the person feels or their response to that. And therefore to have someone who represents that person's interests as though those interests were their own, who can articulate it and put it in a manner that represents that person powerfully to the eyes of others, means now that they can't go and do what they were planning to do with impunity. In a sense, the genie's out of the bottle. We know what's going on here, and that's no longer a secret. And therefore the strength of the advocacy is in the potency of the advocate to speak up on those sorts of things. In a sense, you need the strongest to represent the interests of the weakest. So if we were all in trouble, we'd want, the best lawyer we could afford in our corner, the one with the greatest standing. You wouldn't necessarily want to go to someone who was, just thrown out of the law courts and, unregistered. And, you'd want someone who has credibility, an authority to speak on your behalf. And therefore an advocate, and their authority comes from their knowledge of the person. The fact that they may be the only person that knows this person really well. So there are two major benefits that the presence of an advocate brings, not only to these parties that are being advocated to, but directly to the person themselves. And the two benefits are that this relationship now, this long-term relationship that grows into a friendship, is the vehicle from the devalued world to the valued world. It's the bridge across those kind of things. And it's also the thing that helps prevent this person with a disability, being made dead. Those two things are so potent that someone who's going to say, I'm not going to let you do that to him again. You will deal with me if you do, sends a very strong message that is usually missing. The vast number of people in services go on largely unrepresented, and therefore can be moved about, can be treated without that sense of someone else representing their interests. And so this is a very potent method of protecting the welfare of people, and especially those people who no longer have parents in their lives, other siblings, other people that might represent their interests, are kind of completely alone in the world, but now have someone who has a commitment to staying with them and being in their corner and nobody else's.